Welcome to Carly Tackles, a storage bench with concealed litter boxes. Part 3, the finale. Previously on Carly Tackles. We made 2 sets of frames, installed our drawer slides into our frames. We made bases for the litter boxes to sit on that go into the drawer slides. Added some flooring. Cut out the hole for our cat door. And lastly, we secured the shell to the frame and filled the holes. I'm taking measurements for my drawer fronts. These drawer fronts are going to be inset and line up with the shell. I'm using my table saw to cut down a 3/4 inch thick plywood. You can also use a circular saw for these cuts. You may notice that this piece is quite long to be running on my table saw, and I'm using that Toughbuilt roller stand to help keep my piece steady. I'm measuring to determine where my handle should go. I found the center. I know I want the cutout to be 5 inches wide and 1.5 inches deep. You can see I'm using my speed square there to draw out where my handle cutout will go. I'm using a Ryobi cordless jigsaw to cut out the handle. And now I'm using a round over bit and the Ryobi trim router to help round the edges so it's smoother and nicer for your hand. Once I'm done taking the router to one side, I flip over the piece and do the exact same thing. And lastly, take some sandpaper there and help smooth out any rough edges from the router. And when this is done, you'll have a nice handle that won't stick out, but it allows you to easily pull open your drawer front. To aid in the installation process, I'm going to be using playing cards as spacers. I count out how many cards and apply the space all the way around. You may need to add more cards or subtract cards depending on how tight your drawer front fits. Once you have everything spaced out the way you want, you can start pre-drilling and driving in your screws to attach the base to the drawer front. When everything's good, you can remove your playing cards and give your drawer a test run. I use 18-gallon tubs for litter boxes, and I just cut out a hole. Now, not all 18-gallon tubs have the same dimension, so you want to check that. Most of the dimensions include the lid, so I recommend physically measuring the tub itself to make sure it fits in your base. And the reason I use the tubs is they're a little higher than litter boxes, and our cats like to aim a little high. Previously, I made a template to help me with the flooring in that corner. Luckily, I get to use that same template to help me cut out the litter mats. And I'll show you how to make a template in a little bit. Now don't make the same mistake I did. I had flipped the mats upside down and drawn it out, and it obviously didn't line up. You want to make sure the mat top is facing up on your template, or however you trace out your template. So I have a few extra pieces that I shouldn't need here. You can kind of see how I'm putting all those pieces in there together. Yours would be a lot nicer, so learn from my mistakes. Adding these extra litter mats is optional, but it will help you keep the litter in the storage vents versus letting it come outside of the cat door. Installing the cat door is pretty easy once you have the hole cut out. You just line up one side of the cat door, and I'm using a level to help make sure I get it straight. And then I'm going to use a self-centering drill bit and drill in 2 of the holes, double check my work, and then secure the screws. Once I have the top secured, I will then use that same drill bit and drill out the holes for the bottom and then drive in those screws. Only one side installs with screws. The other side uses double-sided tape, which is included in the box. So you just apply those to the outer shell and then install it on the other side, pushing firmly. If this is your cat's first cat door, it's going to take some treats and teaching on how to use this. Before installing the cat door, I would leave it off and let the cats get used to that's where the litter box is, and then install it later. The top pieces I'm making out of 1x12s. Now 12 inches is definitely not deep enough for my shelf, so I'm going to have to glue them together. And before I do that, I want to measure my lengths because it's a lot easier to cut these boards when they're this deep on my miter saw versus having them glued together and trying to make that cut with using a circular saw or a table saw. I'm applying the glue as carefully as I can. I don't want too much squeeze out, but I want enough glue that these boards will be tight. And then I'm applying my quick grip clamps. There are definitely better clamps that you can use for this. I just currently don't have them in the size that I need. Once the glue is dried, I'm taking it over to my table saw and I want to cut a 2-inch strip. This strip will go against the wall and I'll attach the hinges. Next, I'm cutting the boards to the depth that I need. So account for that 2-inch and then make your cut. Like you saw me do on the handles, I'm using a round over bit on my edges. Now I'm going to have 2 sides exposed, so you're going to watch me do that corner. I'm going to flip over the top and do it on the other side, so both sides of it will be completely round. The hold down clamp and those bench dogs are really nice when you're trying to hold a piece still while you're routing. I do recommend them. You can check out the links in the video description below. Don't forget about that 2-inch strip that's going to go against the wall. We want that same round over edge throughout. The tops and that back strip should look something like this. Check out that nice round edge. Now it's time to tackle that evil corner. Like I mentioned earlier, I was going to show you how to make a template. I'm using cardboard and paint tape to line it all out. It is so much easier using a template versus trying to take exact measurements of everything. Well, I have my template base kind of cut out, but it's going to be a little flimsy. So I'm going to cut out extra cardboard pieces in the middle to help hold everything together. So that's what those big chunks there in the middle. And then I use my scissors, trim it up, make sure it still matches, and now all I have to do is set that on my piece, fasten it so it doesn't move, and trace it out and cut it out with either a circular saw or a jigsaw. since this is going to be inset between two other doors, I need a way to be able to grab it and open it. So like I did with the drawers, I'm making a handle inside of the piece. Cutting out these handles can be pretty easy if you start with using a hole saw. I happen to have a 1.5 inch hole saw, which if you remember, that's the same thickness of my handles that I used in the drawer fronts. And then you just use a jigsaw to cut out between the two and repeat with the round over bit like we've done on everything else and smooth out that edge and finish up with some sandpaper, and now you have a nice handle. I need to cut out a 2-inch strip to be placed against the wall so I can attach my hinges. I'm using a framing square to draw a straight line. However, this is a total mistake that I have to fix later. You don't want to draw it straight across like I did. You want to take into account that corner, because when you go to lift up your lid, you're going to find that you hit the other pieces. So you want to do 2 inches in from all of your sides, including that little corner piece. So don't do this. Look at my 2-inch strip. You may notice it has corners on it now. I had to go back and glue them to fix my mistake. So if you do it right the first time, you won't have to try to do that repair and have that little gap that I now have. When attaching this to the frame, I started in the middle because it's the one thing you really can't move around once you have the pieces in. You can move either side farther out or farther in depending on how well this top part opens. So starting in your corner, then work your way out. I was looking for white hinges, and you might be surprised to know that they're not that easy to find. I did find some white cabinet, flush, self-closing hinges, and that's what I'm using here. So they stick out a little bit taller than some of the basic hinges, but at least they're white and they kind of match my thing. You may have noticed that I kept lifting up on that middle piece and flapping it up and down. What I was doing was I was making sure when it opened, it wouldn't hit the other piece. So I was sliding the side piece in and out to make sure I didn't have it rub against the middle piece. Once it was where I needed it to be, I locked it down using those Automax clamps. I pre-drilled under the frame and then drove in some screws. And I wanted to make sure I did it this way so you wouldn't have to see these screws and I didn't have to fill in anything. So it's really nice on top. Make sure your lid is flush with that back piece and that you can still lift the lid in the middle without it rubbing. Determine where you want to place your hinges. Now these hinges have to be right on that line, and I'm using a self-centering drill bit to pre-drill the holes. Those self-centering drill bits are really nice when you're lining up hinges. I'm installing the hinges on that back piece before attaching and drilling the holes in the lid. I bought these clear bumpers to stick to the underside of the lid to help protect the lids when they close. I installed these on all 3 lids. When it's time to clean out the litter box, you can get your supplies out of that middle compartment, because remember, we had storage room. This is a litter genie and a little scoop handle, and now I can sit on my lovely little storage bench and scoop it out from above. Check out my supervisor on the stairs behind me, making sure that I really cleaned it thoroughly. Here's a look at the inside. I have plenty of storage and pathways for the cats to get to either litter box, as well as some Arm & Hammer odorizers installed. Now, what kind of demonstration would this be if I didn't have the cats? Give it a try. Thanks for watching Carly Tackle's storage bench with concealed litter boxes. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you'd like to see more videos similar to this, please subscribe to my channel. Carly tackles DIY, tools and gadgets, tips and tricks. Make sure you hit that bell to receive notifications when I release new content.